Hello guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we'll be learning how to cut and sew this beautiful bubu gown with the ruffle designs just like you can see on your screen. This tutorial is very easy and straightforward, and I must mention very beginner friendly. Now if this seems like something you're interested in, please stick with me to the end of this tutorial and let's get started. With me here, I have the fabric which I'll be using for this tutorial. This is an Ankara print fabric and I used 6 yards for this tutorial, including the scarf that came out of it. Also, I used a bias tape. I used about 4.5 rows for the ruffles, so I would advise you get about 5 rows for this tutorial. I've also gone ahead to put my fabric on fold here, and this is for the back piece. As you can see here, I labeled it B. For the zipper allowance, I marked 1 inch at the center back and I ruled it all the way to the length of my fabric. To know how many inches to put your fabric on fold, I have this rough sketch of the gown we are recreating, and as you can see here, the length of the sleeve is very long and you don't want to use that because you're going to end up wasting fabric by the side of the rest of the gown. So what you need to do is to take from the center of your back all the way to the point where the ruffle is starting. Now the remaining part of the sleeve will be attaching much later in the tutorial. So we are taking from the center back all the way to where the first ruffle is starting. Now half of my shoulder measurement is 8.5 inches, and from the shoulder to the point where I want the ruffle to start, I'll be using 11 inches. So now what we are going to say is 8.5 inches plus 11 inches. This is going to give us 19.5 inches. Now because the fabric is going to be on fold, we are going to multiply that by 2, and this is going to give us 39 inches. So if you cut your fabric at 39 inches and put it on fold, on both sides you are going to have your 19.5 inches. This 39 inches is going to be for the front part, because the back part of the gown is going to have zipper at the back, 1 inch on both sides. So I'm going to add 2 inches here, which is going to give me 41 inches for the back. I hope this is clear. Bringing in the front piece, make sure you place it directly on the zipper allowance because the zipper is just for the back. Make sure you align that properly. At the top of your fabric, mark a starting line just like I'm doing here. This starting line is also going to serve as your shoulder line. I'll just be labeling this F, which is the front part of my gown. This part is going to be serving as your center front, which you'll be taking all your measurement from. Make sure you don't take it from the zipper allowance. Your measurement is starting from here. First, we are going to be marking our neckline, and for this tutorial, we will be using a boat-shaped neckline. So from the center front, I'm going to be marking 5 inches as my neck width, and I'm going to come down by 3 inches as the neck depth. Then I'll connect this with a curve. This is for the front neckline, and for the back neckline, maintaining the same neck width, I'm going to come down by 2 inches as the neck depth and connect this with a curve also. Now that you're done with that, you are going to be marking half of your shoulder measurement. For me, half of my shoulder measurement is 8.5 inches, and then from that point you are going to mark your sleeve length, which is from the shoulder all the way to the point where the first ruffle is starting, and I'm going to be using 11 inches. After marking that there, come down by 1 inch. This is going to be for the shoulder slope, and then connect this into the neckline just like this. To mark other vertical measurements, place your tape at the starting line. The first point you are going to mark in is going to be your bust point. For me, my bust point is 11.5. I'll just mark that there and connect it with a straight line using my free hand. The next point is my half length, which is 16 inches. Now that I have the half length, from that point I'm going to measure down to my hip line. So I'm going to mark my waist to hip line measurement, which is 9 inches. Also placing your tape at the starting line, mark the length of your gown. So labeling this, here I have my bust point, this is the waistline, this is the hip line, and the last line there is going to be my length. To impute your round body measurement, on the bust point, mark quarter of your bust measurement. Don't forget your measurement is starting at the center front here. So quarter of my bust measurement is 11 inches. I'll be adding 0.5 inch for ease because this is a BUBU gown. I'll be adding 1.5 inch stitching allowance. On the waistline, also mark quarter of your waist measurement, add about 0.5 inch for ease, and also add 1.5 inch stitching allowance. I'll be doing the same thing to the hip line. Quarter of your hip measurement, you add your ease and also add your stitching allowance. Now take the full measurement of what you have on the hip line. For me, you can see here I have 15 inches. Now this 15 inches, I'll also be marking it on the length of my gown. Now that you're done with that, just go ahead and connect this together just like I'm doing here. To connect a cuff into the sleeve, I'm just going to come out by about 0.5 inch on the side of my bust line just like this, and then I'll connect a cuff into the sleeve just like this. I'll just be ruling a straight line from my starting line into the bust line. To cut this out, we'll be starting with the back neckline, and then to cut out the front neckline, just raise up the front piece and cut out the front neckline, then cut it out through the shoulder slope into the sleeve, then into the rest of the gown. Now that we are done with that, of course we have a zipper at the back here, so we'll have to do what we call the zipper shaping. This is going to help to give your gown a better fitting. So on this waistline here, on the zipper part, I'm going to go in by 0.5 inch. And then after the zipper allowance also, I'm going to go in by 0.5 inch. From this point now, I'm going to connect it from this point to the upper part of the gown, and I'll be doing the same thing for this other side here. Then I'm going to be connecting this back into the hip line just like this. Now that we're done with that, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. Just watch how I'm doing this to know how to go about yours. Now you know that our sleeve is not complete yet because we're trying to save fabric. Cut out the remaining part of the sleeve. What you need to do is to get your actual sleeve length. For me, my actual sleeve length is 26 inches plus half of my shoulder measurement 8.5. I have 35 inches approximately. Now I'm going to say 35 inches minus this 19.5 inches, which is the sleeve we have already cut. Okay, and this is going to give me about 15.5 inches. So the remaining part of my sleeve, which I'm going to be adding to this, is 15.5 inches. And I have this fabric here which I already cut out. As you can see here, I have about 17 inches here, and I'm going to be leaving it that way because this is including the hemming allowance which I'm going to use to hem the ends of the sleeve. To stitch this down together, the first thing you're going to do is to finish off your neckline, and to do this I'm going to be using a bias tape to pipe my neckline. So I'll be doing this both for the front and the back neckline. After doing that, you can see how beautiful this came out. The next thing you'll be doing is to insert your zipper to the center back, and first of all you need to determine how long you want your zipper to be. For me, I want it to stop somewhere between the waist and the hip line, so I'm just going to mark it here, and then I'm going to go to my machine and stitch down my zipper using this line as a guide. And then when I get to this point here, I'm going to stitch down the remaining part of my center back. After inserting my zipper and stitching down the remaining part of my center back, you can see how beautiful this came out. The next thing you are going to do is to place your back piece and your front piece right sides facing each other, just like I'm doing here. Make sure to align them properly at the shoulders, and then you go to your machine and stitch it down at the shoulders using 0.5 inch stitching allowance. After stitching that down, what we'll be doing now is to attach the remaining part of our sleeve. This is my sleeve here, and as you can see here, I have it about 17 inches including the hemming allowance. So what I'm going to do first is to get the midpoint of this sleeve here, and also get the midpoint of the other sleeve. If you notice, this second sleeve that I have here with me is a little bit bigger than this first sleeve here. This is because towards this end it's kind of opened up to give like a bell shape. Because of that, this second sleeve is bigger than the first sleeve we are attaching it to. If you'd want yours to come out wider towards the end more than mine, all you have to do is to use a wider fabric. I'm just going to draw a straight line from here and make sure it opens up towards the end just like this, and I'll be repeating the same thing to this other side here. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. The first thing I'll be doing is to pin down this part. I'll be stitching down this part using half-inch stitching allowance, and when I'm done, I'm going to open up my sleeve like this, place the both sleeves right sides facing each other, and stitch it down using half-inch stitching allowance. After stitching it down, this is how it came out. I'm going to open this up, and as you can see here, towards the end of the sleeve, it has this opening, more like the shape of a bell sleeve. I'll also be using this lace to design the sleeves, and this lace is about 10 inches long. So I'm just going to place it at the area where I want the ruffles to start. Then using my hemming gum, I'll place it between the lace and the main fabric, and I'll be giving this a good press. I'll make sure to do the same thing on both sides of my sleeve, just like you can see here. Now coming to the body of the gown, I'll also be putting this lace around this down part. Now I didn't use any particular measurement. All I did was just put it around the lower part of my gown, just like this, and I'll also put hemming gum in between, and I'll give this a good press. After doing that, you can see how beautiful this came out. Now what we'll be doing next is to create ruffles on the upper part of this lace here, and also on the lower part of the lace, and we'll be doing the same thing to the sleeve. We'll be creating ruffles on the upper part of the sleeve and also on the lower part of the sleeve. Now to create this ruffle, I have this fabric which I've gone ahead and cut out. You can see here that I joined it together, and this fabric is very long. I didn't use any particular measurement because the kind of ruffle we are creating, you can't really know or the length of fabric you need, but just make sure it's long enough. And even if it finishes while you're creating the ruffle, you can always go ahead and cut out more. But for the width of this, I used 4.5 inches. Now what I'll be doing is to use this bias tape and finish off the both ends of this fabric. I changed my mind and I decided to use a black bias tape because it made it look more sharp. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring in the bias tape and I'll place it on the wrong side of this fabric, just like this. So I'm going to stitch it down now all the way to the end. After doing that, I'm going to turn that over to the right side of the fabric, and I'm going to finish this off just like this, and I'm going to stitch it down also all the way to the end. Make sure that you do this to both sides of your fabric, just like I've done here, and then go ahead to finish off the ends of your fabric. Now to create the ruffles on the main gown, what you need to do is to place this fabric on the lace just like this. As you can see, I just placed it roughly in between, and then I'm going to make a stitch. Try and make sure that the stitch is more towards the upper parts of the fabric. So first I'm going to create a fold just like this towards the side, and I'm going to stitch it down. Let me do this again so you understand. I'm just going to pick up the fabric like this, and I'm going to fold it this way towards this side and stitch it down. Then I'll make a fold also towards the opposite direction and stitch it down. I'm going to repeat this again. I'll make a fold towards the side, I'll stitch it down, make a fold towards the opposite direction, stitch it down. This is what I'm going to continue doing on all the areas which I said I'm going to create ruffles on. After creating the ruffles, you can see how beautiful this looks. This is what you will have after creating yours. And you can also see that I created ruffles on the sleeve just exactly as I have described. I'll also be creating ruffles around the bust area. And to do this, I have gone ahead to get the midpoint, and I just drew a sweetheart line just like you see here. So all you need to do is to get the midpoint and then just draw a sweetheart shape just like this. Then you'll be creating ruffles on this line that you just drew, just like you did the other ruffle, and then create ruffles around the neckline. After doing that, you can see how beautiful my ruffles came out. This is what you should have, and this is how I went about the creating of the ruffles. It's really easy and straightforward. Now that we are done with that, all we need to do now is to turn this over the wrong side, align your fabric properly, and then go ahead and stitch this down from the sleeve using your stitching allowance all the way to the length of the dress. Do not forget to hem the ends of your sleeve and also hem the end of your gown. We have come to the end of this tutorial, and I hope this tutorial was really helpful. Do make sure to hit on the like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you have any questions, please make sure to put it down on the comment section and I'll be attending to that. I'll see you guys in my next tutorial.